simple sketches with free, even if you draw it with freehand, that is also okay. But you try to draw and submit it so that you can develop some idea about these topics. So sectional views and isometric drawings uh, was probably not discussed with you during your engineering drawing class. So you in mechanical it comes under module B, right? So you were probably taught about surface development and those parts. Is
Yes,
it
sir.
correct?
Yes,
Right.
yes, আমাদের সেকেন্ড সেমিস্টারে দেশ দিয়েও ছিল।
Yes. So all these things were covered, but probably in details you have not. It was not discussed with you about the sectional views and isometric drawings. So I thought of sharing it because as you go forward with your course, uh, upcoming semesters or also in this semester, so you'll be seeing lot of drawing and images, engineering, graphics will be coming uh, and needs to be interpreted, which are based on the sectional views. So sectional views is very much important also in this machine drawing course. This one is machine drawing 1. In next semester, this one is machine drawing 1 in drawing board mode. So you have to use paper and drawing instruments to draw your assignments. In next semester, you will be doing uh, the extended part or the next part of this course, that is machine drawing 2, and that part we will be doing in AutoCAD. So the basics of AutoCAD you are learning now. In next semester you will be drawing these machine drawings in using AutoCAD. So let me share the screen. Okay, so you can see my PPT, right?
Yes, sir.
So this one is machine drawing. So first I shall show you the syllabus. Probably you have checked it already, but still I'll discuss. I was discussing with Satyam about this. So this, since you have not attended any physical class, here you will be seeing all the drawing and other sessional classes will be for 3 hours or 4 hours, right? But actually this much time is assigned or given because there are some practical to be shown to you, or you have to perform some assignments that will be given to you. So in a physical mode class that is done, that is why these 4 hours are assigned. Here this 3 hours class, this is a 3 hours class, and approximate division of each topic is also given by the side. So say for example the first topic is on screw threads. So the physical mode classes, what we generally do, after explaining it, there will be given some assignments or drawing assignments which you have to draw in the classroom itself, and within the assigned time you have to finish it and submit it. But now we are in online mode, so that is why you will be seeing most of the classes will the lecture will be for half an hour or maybe 1 hour, and the assignments you have to do at home. So I'll also give you some of the assignments. So in physical mode it is comparatively easier because generally I stay in the class and try to clarify the doubts arise from time to time to the students. But in online mode it is difficult. So I'll try to give you some simple assignments so that it develops some idea about this subject, and also it is not very difficult or tough for you to draw yourself. So if you face any difficulty in understanding, or if you have any query, you can write it down in the classroom as a comment. I generally follow it very regularly, so within that day I shall try to answer it if you have any queries or questions. So the syllabus, in this syllabus you will see, uh, in this syllabus you will see uh, some of the machine components or machine parts are listed here. So our objective is to learn the basic functions and terminologies related to them, and learn how they are drawn in machine drawing, or how they look when we have completed their drawing. So screw threads is the first topic. There are some subtopics in it. Riveted joints and welded joints is another one. Keys, and there are three joints given: quarter joint, knuckle joint, or pipe joint. So each of them are very lengthy, so any one will be covered here. The other two you will definitely learn, but here you don't have to draw them. You will learn them during your machine design class. Also, all the topics here listed, you will be learning about the design in your machine design class. Here the main idea is to give you some concept about its working principle, and uh, getting to know how to draw them, what are the conventions to draw them, and how to identify the components when you see a drawing, and where the component is when you see a large drawing inside it, where these components are located. So next one is pulleys. Again, for shaft coupling there are three types: rigid, flanged, and flexible coupling. So only one will be covered here. And the last one is stuffing box. So we shall try to cover as much as possible, but if at the end, if we have less time, I'll at least give you the lectures and notes. Maybe if we do not have time, we'll skip one assignment, we may skip. Let us see what happens till the end, right? So in regular mode, generally in evaluation, what we do, we give 50% for class assignment. As I already told you, that students have to draw their assignments in the class, and that has to be submitted in every class, or in after two classes. For long drawings, generally two classes, that means 6 hours are allotted. So they have to complete it and submit it in the class only. So these are class assignments. Here also I'll give you some assignments after each lecture or each discussion, and you have to try and draw them. You can, it will be easy, because mostly you will get all the generalized dimensions. You have to calculate it, or get it based on your based on simple calculation. You have to calculate the dimension, and you have to draw it or reproduce it, so that you can generate some idea. So in real regular class attendance, for attendance 20% marks is there, and for end evaluation 30% marks is there. But here for attendance it is difficult, because in online network connectivity issues are there, and many other issues are there. So what we shall do is, uh, we shall assign some time. Say for example, for one assignment 7 days will be there for submission. If you are able to submit it within 7 days, you will get full attendance marks. If you miss the deadline, then you will lose the attendance marks. Means out of 120, so say if we cover total 5 assignments, each assignment will have 4 marks, and if someone fails to meet the deadline for particular assignment, so he or she will lose 4 marks for that assignment, right? So that way we shall consider for the attendance. And also there will be one final evaluation, or final question answer round. So based on that, also 30% marks will be included. Generally I prefer to take one combined assignment. So some small assignments will be given based on the whole syllabus that is covered, and you have to draw and submit them. Based on that, we shall mark. So this is the overall idea of the syllabus and conducting the classes. So moving on to the, if you have any queries, you can stop me and ask me in between. Moving on to the next part. So we shall go into the basics or introductory part of machine drawing. So before going into drawing, by now probably you have understood or learned several terms related to mechanisms and machines, and also you have learned about rigid bodies, deformable bodies, their mechanics, and all these things. So at least you have started learning them. So uh, basically, when we are talking about machines, first point is mechanisms. And here, as you already probably know, that there is, in reality, there is no perfectly rigid body. At least some deformation will occur even if it is a very rigid body. But in most of the cases, when we consider it rigid, that means the deformation is comparatively very small, and the desired force or load can be easily borne by the component. So that way we define rigid. So more like it is more of a resistant body instead of rigid body. And in mechanism, we term them as links, right? So rigid, or instead of resistant bodies, we call them links. And when we connect those links using some joints to transmit some force or generate some relative motion, we get the mechanism, right? And several several resistance bodies connecting with each other creates a chain, and different types of kinematic chains are connected together or assembled together to form different mechanisms, right? Now once we create different mechanisms, using them we create some machine. Now difference is, in machine we try to, instead of along with transmitting forces and motion, we also convert some energy from one form to another as desired by the designer of that particular machine. So this is the basic difference. So here uh, will be in machine drawing, will be go through some basic components and their functions, and we'll try to draw them. Now moving on to the drawing part, there are, when we are thinking of machine drawing, there are, definitely you can understand, as machines are uh, uh, created using a lot of components connecting with each other. So each and every part needs some detailing or some detailed drawing, so that when we are trying to manufacture and assemble it, we can create each and every component very precisely, and we can assemble them to finally get our final machine. Now that each and every component drawing is called this part drawing. So two types of drawing, machine drawing, are there. One is this part drawing. So one example of screw jack is shown here. So different components are shown in this part drawing, and when all of them are assembled together to get the desired function or desired output, so that time we get the whole machine. And that assembled condition drawing is the assembly drawing. Now you may have noticed that in all the cases here it is shown using half sectional views, and that is why these sectional views are very much important. In actual classes, what is required of you is, if you get the part drawings, you need to finally visualize it to assemble all the parts with each other and create the assembly drawing. Now nowadays, since CAD modeling softwares are available, so it is comparatively easier. Previously, that is why isometric drawing was very important, because based on this part drawing of sectional views or orthographic projection, we had to think of or visualize the component in isometric orientation or isometric view, and then we have to think, if they are assembled, how the complete product will look, and from that again we have to generate the orthographic view to get the assembly drawing. So this is just an example. This is very complicated. So when you will learn about machine design, you will learn about how all the components are designed so that it does not fail up to certain load. So when you are designing a screw jack, say for example you are designing it for a small car, also you may design it for a truck, right? So definitely the truck load will be much higher, so the design will be different, dimensions will be changed. For a small car which have a smaller weight, the definitely the screw jack will have some different dimensions. So designer in machine design, when you will learn to prevent failure, how you need to calculate the dimensions, and once these dimensions are calculated or known, then each and every components are drawn in part drawing and they are assembled to get the final assembly drawing, right? Now as I mentioned in CAD drawing, now we have 3D several 3D modeling softwares in the market. One you are learning, that is AutoCAD, that has also 3D feature, but since this semester you will be learning only about the basics, so here you will learn about the basics only. Later at third year second semester you have one course that is uh, that uses or introduces you to use of solid modeling using SolidWorks software. So there you will learn how to create models in 3D, and you can see them in their isometric form. So this one is a assembled plumber block. So there when you use CAD softwares, there you can use this kind of view, that is exploded view. So this exploded view, from name you can understand, from this assembled or assembly drawing you can generate the exploded view by placing all the components in such a way that if you club them together, they can be, if you move them along to their particular axis, along a particular axis, then they will club together with each other and finally create the assembled component or assembled view. So this kind of exploded view is much more difficult, but with generation of uh, generation of these are nowadays easy with uh, CAD software. So previously when uh, people used to draw them using pen and paper mode, then it was much more difficult because everything was dependent on visualization. But nowadays we can just simply create each and every component. Say for example, if we have the dimensions about the base, we can separately create this base, then we can also create the bush, then top cap we can create, and these bolts and nuts are easy to draw or create, and then we can just bring them together so that we can uh, see how they can be assembled with each other, and also we can see the exploded view quite easily, right? So here we shall not be dealing much with exploded view. We shall be dealing with part drawing and assembly drawing. Now for part or assembly drawing also there are two types of drawing. One first stage is, as I mentioned, when designer is designing the assembly drawing, that time the designer has to create one drawing to indicate all the dimensions so that it does not fail when it is subjected to operating condition. So here one example is shown. So for this flange, you see that the design assembly drawing or designer created drawing is much having much less information about the component, but the other part is working drawing or production drawing, that is sent to the manufacturing shop for producing this component. So for that again everything has to be specified by the designer. Like several other informations are given in this working or production drawing, so we shall limit our discussion or our drawings in this designed assembly portion only, to show all the dimensions and their other details in that drawing. But uh, but I shall discuss some of the symbols that are shown in this production drawing also for your knowledge purpose. Now, there may be possible that some components or some machines are so large. Say, for example, one automobile engine is so large that if you draw the whole assembly drawing at one at one position, then there will be so many overlapping lines and overlapping hidden lines, hidden features, that it will be very much difficult to understand by the by any other person, any other designer, or the shop floor persons who will be manufacturing it. So in those cases, this sub assembly concept is there. For large drawings, generally each component assembly is taken out and they are drawn as sub assembly. So for this automobile engine, say the clutch arrangement is drawn as a sub assembly, and how it can be attached to the original or complete engine, that connectivity is shown in a different way. So sub assembly drawing comes into picture to show each and every uh, detailed assembled smaller components of a uh, large final machine or final component, right? So depending on this type of product, its size, and how complex this component is, based on that we can decide the number of sub assemblies required to clearly show or designate the drawing of that particular overall machine or component, right? So for, as I mentioned, for we shall not be much using this production drawing, but still for knowledge purpose you should know some of the symbols. So here in your engineering drawing also you have drawn uh, some orthographic projections where you have used the dimensioning to show the different dimensions of each and every part of that object. Now here also all the dimensioning are shown. Additionally, some more informations are included. So for example, you see here this diameter, this 575 indicates the maximum diameter of that, maximum outside diameter of that component. Now additionally, you see on the right side some plus minus zero point 0.5 is mentioned. So this one is known as tolerance, right? So once you go into, at a later stage, once you go into metrology classes, there you will learn about limits, fits, and tolerance. So this tolerance is important because while we are designing, you can get some particular mathematical value based on your calculations. But in reality, when you are trying to make a component by machining or by casting or by some other manufacturing process, it may be very much difficult to get exactly 75 millimeter diameter. So to ease that error or to minimize the error, instead of specifying exactly 75 millimeter diameter, the designer allowed some allowance or tolerance over the diameter. So 75 plus minus zero point 0.5 means the diameter can be as low as 75.4 mm and maximum value can be 75.5 millimeter. So this outside maximum diameter have a range of or lower limit of 74.5 mm and one upper limit of 75.5 mm, and within that limit this value has to stay. In some cases there are some different notations also. So this plus minus is one here. Here if you notice that minus value above that plus value is written when they are different. So the lower limit is 60 as it is mentioned as 0, and the upper limit is 60.15. So this internal surface has to be much more precise with its dimension. And in many cases there may be no tolerances at all. So for example, this dimension, if you notice, you will see that no tolerance is given. So 32 means it has to be exactly 32 by machining or by casting. So whatever manufacturing method is used, it has to be as accurate to 32 as possible, because no allowance or tolerance is given in design. Now, other than this tolerance, there are some symbols. So say for example, this one, this has some indications for this circular hole. This indication means you have to create this circular hole using some machining process, and what are the possible allowances given in that, those informations are also given here. Now for these symbols, on the first box, left hand side box, you can see one symbol is there, several symbols are there, and some common symbols I have listed. I'll share this slide with you, you can go through it. Like simple ones, you know, these are for parallel lines, these are for perpendicular, this indicates two concentric circles, and so on. So that way we can understand what information is being supplied in that total box, right, based on the left side value. Now the next value indicates the total tolerance allowed on that dimension. Now say for example, on the left side, this is a plate with 6 holes and all the dimensions are mentioned. And now this symbol that is shown here indicates the center position of this circular hole, right. Now the center for this position of this, for the diameter of the center, diameter of the hole is 20 millimeter is given, and the overall tolerance is zero point 0.2 over 5. So over diameter it is, the tolerance is zero point 0.2. But from here you do not get what is the lower limit or upper limit. If the total tolerance is zero point 0.2, the limit can be 20 and 20.2. Also it can be 19.9 to 20.1, right. So that information is not being conveyed. Only information you get is on 20 you can use zero point 0.2 tolerance. If specific tolerance limit is required, then it will be mentioned with this specific measurement, as I already discussed with you. Now, the next two boxes are shown here, that A and B. These are the datum or reference line. So from where we are choosing the datum or reference line, that is important. So this center position is defined here based on both A and B datum. Now you check this A datum is on the horizontal line of this block or component, and B datum is on the vertical line of this component. So based on that, all the dimensions can be read easily or understood easily, so that the when the in production shop or manufacturing shop, someone manufactures one component, it is easier for that person to understand what the designer is thinking and what the designer is trying to create, right. Another part is, when in manufacturing shop the component or object is uh, being manufactured, it has to be done using some machining method or manufacturing method. So depending on different machining methods, the surface finishing will be altered, right. So how much surface finishing is required, how much rough surface can be allowed, or how much polished surface is required, that is determined based on one roughness value. So in all design handbooks these tables are available, so no one needs to remember them. Anyone can refer anytime to a design handbook to check what are the BIS standard. You are aware of BIS, I think, Bureau of Indian Standards. So all the available or listed values of roughness are there, and grading based on that is also mentioned. Now these roughness values are important because how fine or how rough the surface can be, based on that we have to decide which machining or which manufacturing method is to be applied. In some cases, if we do not require very polished or less rough surface, then we can switch to a comparatively easier machining process, and by that we can save the cost of manufacturing of that component. So the designer has to also look after the cost perspective. So to reduce the overall cost of the component, the machining method has to be chosen or selected very carefully. Now here the roughness values are given and some symbol are there. So this one is the basic or starting symbol, and if a surface requires machining materials to be removed from that surface, so on that you will see one triangular shape with extended part. If no material removal or no machining is required, a round shape on that basic symbol will be given. And if special characteristics are required, then this similar to this root over sign will be there. Now special characteristics means, say for example, one you have manufactured or you have designed one component, and after manufacturing you need to put some nickel coating on it to avoid rusting. It is made of, say, some ferrous material. To avoid that, you need to make some coating on it. Whatever coating you require, you have to specify that over this special characteristics. So information about coating can be mentioned here. Now this material removal, this symbol is also shown in this production drawing. You see, say for example here, this extended line, on this extended line this machining symbol is given, and above that 6.3 is mentioned. Now this 6.3 is the allowed roughness of the internal surface of this component. So since this symbol is made on the extended part of this surface, so this symbol indicates how much roughness is allowed for this surface. So the value is 6.3. So if we check from the handbook or from the table, here 6.3 is there. So N9 grade roughness is required, and based on that a number of machining or manufacturing processes are available. Again, through handbook we can choose them or select them and mention them, so that in production shop or production unit can decide which machining has to be used to minimize the cost, right? So these are some basic information about the drawing. Now, as I told you, we shall be restricting our drawings using this design assembly only. So we don't need to put all these additional informations in our drawing. So our drawing will be simple with all the dimensions, and preferably at least one view should be either full sectional view or half sectional view, right? So next we shall move on to the uh, main body of our subject, that is the first topic, that threaded fasteners. Now if you have any question you can ask, or are you getting it, or if you having any difficulty, no one is saying anything.
No, sir. Understand, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
getting it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We're getting it, sir.
Okay. So this first topic, we move on to the first topic, that is the threaded fasteners. So probably you have come across the term,
স্যার টলারেন্সের ব্যাপারটা একবার বলবেন?
right? So this tolerance that I was saying means, say you have one steel cylindrical rod with diameter, say you have made it from casting, and it has a diameter of say 80 mm. Now when you require it to be fitted in a machine, you require diameter of 5 equals to 575. Now you need to perform some machining operations on it, so that you can reduce the diameter by 5 millimeter or the radius by 2.5 millimeter. Now when doing that, there are several possibilities that it will not be exactly 5 millimeter reduction. So there is a possibility that it will be either reduced from 75 or be above 75. So there are different machining methods. So once you are introduced to lathe, you will see turning operations. So in turning operation, what happens? This shaft is fixed on one side, and a motor powers that fixed side, so that this shaft rotates, and a tool is fixed here. That tool can move towards the shaft, right? So since it is rotating, when the tool touches and the tool moves towards the shaft and also along the axis of the shaft, there are arrangements to move the tool towards the shaft and parallel to the shaft. So when it is moved towards the shaft, you can cut the outside of that shaft and also move on the right side, so that the whole shaft becomes of uniform diameter, right? So that way that turning operation is done. Now there are several possibilities that this tool head is worn out. So in that case, the accuracy of machining will be reduced. The lathe you are using maybe not having sufficient amount of accuracy, or some misalignments are there. So that will also create some may create some error in the machining. And also there are some other human error. So all the operators who are using a machine may not be having equal skill or equal performance. So there may be incorporated some error because of the operator also. So all those errors gets incorporated, and then it is very difficult to machine the shaft down to exactly 75 millimeter diameter. So that is why what the designer do, when the designer calculates the different dimensions based on some mechanical criteria, like its maximum strength or what load is to be supported, based on that, then the designer has calculated the value of diameter to be 75. But the machining will create a diameter maybe something lower, say 74.9, or maybe something higher, say 75.1. So the designer again checks whether how much allowance can be given, so that the component does not fail in operating condition, and also these errors that are included, that can be adjusted. So that way this limit is set. So instead of 75 millimeter, if the operator manages the diameter somewhere within the value between 74.9 to 75.1, then the designer accepts the component. So this one is lower limit of the dimension, lower limit, and this one is the upper limit of the dimension. Why upper limit? Above that, above the desired dimension, you are allowing some value, so that is the maximum upper limit. And this one is below the lower desired value, so that is the lower limit. Now if by any chance the operator makes some mistake and makes the dimension say 74.7, then it will not be acceptable. So it is because it is going beyond the two limits specified by the designer. So that is why this, for this particular object, the tolerance is the difference between the minimum and maximum allowable length. So the tolerance is 75.1 minus 74.9. So that is 0.2 millimeter tolerance is given. So this, by this we can reduce the or adjust the errors incorporated in a particular machine. Now you may think that if this much error is included, how this part will fit with some other part if that also do not have exactly 75 millimeter diameter. So for that also some limits will be allowed in the same manner, based on the design and based on the error, how much error can be incorporated. So depending on that, both the mating components will be designed and the tolerance will be given to them, so that they, when they are connected with each other, they become compatible with each other and they can be easily connected, right? So this tolerance and limits and fits, all these topics will be taught to you in at a later stage in your metrology class. I just introduced you to because these production drawing, if you join, once you join some farm, if you are working in the site or working in the production shop or production line, then if you join a core company and if you are in the production site, then you have to read this kind of production drawing, and you have to check whether all the norms are followed while the operators are generating these components. So that is just introduction, but if you still need some clarification on tolerance, I'll share a note, you can go through it if you are interested. So at a later stage it will be covered in much details, right? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Master, one thing I'd like to ask that, sir, we forgot about the dimensioning, sir, because in our engineering drawing classes, these
Right.
things were not taught so much precisely, and we have forgotten the whatever sir taught that time.
About dimensioning, so you don't have the recordings with you?
सत्यम recordings है?
I don't think so. हमको नहीं लगता
Sir,
है.
can you send your recording, sir? Your classes recording?
Yes, sir. Actually, the dimensioning we have no.
Okay, no problem. I'll check and send it. Share it with you. No problem. No problem. So now
Sir, one
let's.
more question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sir, what kind of papers do you have to use for our assignment, sir?
Average,
That will. Yes.
sir, what things are required for machine drawing?
I get you.
Okay, sir.
Sir, which instruments we record for machine drawing, sir? Like engineering
sir,
The same
compass,
you
yes,
use
sir.
during same you use during your engineering drawing class. Nothing
Okay,
extra.
sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Sir, we
Yes.
just use pencil and geometry works things.
actually, yes, sir.
Sir,
Actually,
allowed.
yeah,
Actually, sir
actually,
told us not to use any complicated
Yes, sir,
instruments.
because
it's okay.
Yes, sir, but he told to buy something like
he never asked us to buy T scale or Darty or something
yes,
like
sir.
that.
It's okay, but I personally feel since you are in mechanical, so you at least should have bought it to see it how they work, because
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The things I have bought, sir.
I generally encourage students of mechanical to buy at least the mini drafter, because it has some wonderful mechanisms incorporated in it. So since in
Yes, sir, I
this
have
semester,
to
Yes, sir, I have many drafters, sir. I have two, sir.
Entire 2 semesters.
right. So that is why if you don't have a mini drafter, it is difficult. I know that at home it will be difficult for you to fix it on a particular table, or somewhere there may not be available. Some tables may not be available, or drawing boards may not be available. So procuring all these things are difficult. So even if you do not have this, those who do not have this, they also can draw it. If you have a 30 centimeter scale, that will be sufficient for your drawing. Only thing is, when you have hatching, several parallel lines are there. So that is why this parallel movement is very much essential. So you can use your set squares to draw parallel lines, but that requires a lot of stress and lot of precision for you to draw it very precisely. Otherwise your drawing will be clumsy, or it will be too separated to clearly that it will be not very good looking. So those are the things. That is why in classroom, when you use it, is better to have this mini drafter. But at home there are definitely several limitations to many of you, so that will not be a problem at all. So all these things you can draw using scales and compass only, and if you have a protractor, then it will be sufficient. And for paper size, you have to, it is your judgment, you have to see how much dimension are required to accommodate all components and the total assembled drawing in a particular sheet. Based on that, you can either select A3 drawing sheet or A2 drawing sheet, right?
Sir,
But
in
if since at home, if you do not able to, if you are not
স্যার
able to
এটি অ্যাভেলেবল
accommodate,
অনলাইন,
huh?
অনলাইনে পাবো এই মিনি ড্রাফটার?
হ্যাঁ, পাবি সব পেয়ে যাবি।
Everything is now available online. So what I was saying, if you do not even have mini drafter or you cannot use these large drawing sheets, then also you can use A3 size shorter drawing sheets, and on that you can use simple scale, pencil, your compass and protractor, and sometimes you will require the set square to get your drawing done, right? So but definitely, since you can understand that these are comparatively advanced and complicated drawings, it will be a bit of more effort will be required from your end to uh, only use limited amount of instruments to complete all the drawing. But as I also earlier did during this online course, that very much accuracy, above 90% accuracy is not required. Even up to 75%, 80% accuracy will be okay. So based on that, you can understand that some relaxations are also available there, because also I'll not be there to help you or guide you during your drawing. So you are definitely free to discuss among yourself. But that is the point. Without physical classes, these are, I mean, these are very, very difficult. So now you are doing AutoCAD class also, right? So all of you in your group have a laptop or computer which can run AutoCAD.
Yes, sir.
No, then it's okay.
all of us have, sir. Some of us don't have laptops, sir.
So that
এই
is the
সোহেলের
point,
একার
right?
মনে ছিল না, বাদ বাকি মনে হয় সকলেরই ছিল, সোহেলের একা প্রবলেম।
No, I'm not talking about your group only. I'm talking about the whole class, the total mechanical class, whole A and B section. So
সেটা স্যার আমরা বলতে পারবো না স্যার।
so that is what I'm saying. There are probably some students who do not have laptop or computer. It is okay that those who are having, they are learning well, but those who do not have, seeing only the demonstration, it will be difficult for them to understand, right? So, and many of the students do not have that laptop or computer, so they face much difficulty in understanding. So that is why this physical classes for these labs, and without the physical class, it is very difficult to describe or interact, right? Because once you start the drawing, you will see there will be several questions and thoughts coming into your mind. So these discussions also enrich us also, the teachers, because your questions will keep me thinking how to answer your questions, and then I'll also read more and learn on that topic more, right? So these interactions, that is why, are very essential. But however, you try to draw, that is why I told you that here up to 75 to 80% accuracy if you can bring, then it will be okay. And also this time I'll give you comparatively easier drawings, so that you have to only calculate simple dimensions, and you can have a reference drawing so that you can draw it using that. So much guidance is not required, uh, right? So I think I have answered all your questions. If you have any other clarification, you can ask, or I shall move to today's discussion. You have time, right? Because it's I asked you about 1 hour, so it is past 1 hour almost. So you have time, right?
टाइम बोलते सर ওই 6টা থেকে একটা ক্লাস আছে ভাই। সত্যম ম্যাথস ক্লাস कब से है रे?
6:30.
Oh, 6:30 है। Yes sir, we have 1 hour.
So at least let me have half an hour. I'll try to wrap it up within half an hour so that you can get half an hour break before your next class. right? So these fasteners, what I was saying, you have probably come across the term fasteners. So for any machine component, as I told you, several, or you can also imagine several components are to be clubbed together or assembled together or fastened with each other to make it working. So we require some types of fasteners to attach each component with the other, right? So these fasteners are divided into two basic groups. One is the temporary fasteners and the second one is permanent fasteners. Now the difference is, for temporary fasteners we can assemble and disassemble as per our requirement in these temporary fasteners without damaging the original component. So easily you can understand threaded joints like bolts and nuts, screws and studs. These are the readily available, or all of you must have seen these kinds of joints where we can easily unmount or undo the joints without damaging the joints. And when the purpose is over, we can reassemble all the joints to make the final component again without damaging the joints, right? There are another type where the permanent fasteners like welding and riveting. So in bridges you have seen riveting, I guess, and welding you are well aware. Anyone is aware. Any grill must have some welding on it. So these welding and riveting, these two are permanent fasteners. If you try to remove the joint components, then you have to destroy the fastening part, and a part or portion of the two components will also get damaged while you are separating them. So again, if you try to join those two components, so for example, a riveted joint, if you try to remove this rivet, you have to remove off this rivet head, and then only you can take it out. So once you do that, this rivet is wasted. You cannot reuse this rivet. Again, you have to use one new rivet and seal it using the proper methods and mechanisms. We shall discuss that in next class. So rivets are permanent fasteners, and most of the machine components are used using temporary fasteners, and buildings and sheet metals which do not need to be disassembled, in those cases only we try to use permanent fasteners, right? Another temporary fastener I have mentioned here, those are keys and pins. So keys are small bars or prismatic bars of different shapes which helps in fixing one component over the other. So say you have one shaft on which you want to mount a gear. So the outside diameter of the shaft and inside diameter of the gear will be approximately equal, so that the gear can slide over the shaft. Now if we try to rotate the gear along with the shaft, then we have to find some mechanism to fix it on that shaft, so that if we connect a motor with the shaft, as the shaft rotates, along with it the gear also rotates. So two methods are possible. One, you already know, that is interference fit. So interference fitting means by having a lower internal diameter of the gear. Say the shaft diameter is a bit larger, shaft outside diameter, and say this one is gear inside diameter, this one is a gear inside diameter. So this diameter is somewhat smaller. So by heating this gear, we can increase this radius, and we can put it over the shaft, and when this the temperature of that gear is reduced, it tightly fixes on this shaft, and when the shaft rotates, it can transmit the rotational motion to the gear as well. But there is one problem or difficulty with this. What happens when the shaft rotates at a very large speed or at a high speed? Then what happens, because of the centrifugal force at a particular speed, what happens, the tightening force at the internal surface of the gear and the external surface of the shaft, they just they become loose, and the force cannot be transmitted from the shaft to the gear. So this limits the operating speed. So up to a certain maximum speed only this interference feed can be used, because you cannot hit this gear to above certain limit. That will change its material property and also may destroy its structural integrity also. So that way you cannot heat it to some arbitrary temperature. You have limit on that also. So based on that, this interference fit is difficult. So what is done on this shaft, a small groove is created, and on this, inside this gear, inside circular part is groove is created. Now once this gear is fitted on this shaft, this groove and the groove on this gear, they become a prismatic hollow space where this type of keys are placed. And now you can understand when this shaft rotates, the gear also will rotate. Now a 3D imagination would be better. So you can many videos are available in YouTube. You just try and see how keys are used to attach gear over shafts. So you will see the total machining process and how manufacturing process also. And if you see a 3D view, it will be easier for you to understand. So this use of these keys are very prominently used in gear attaching, also pulley attaching. Whatever rotating components are attached over a shaft, in the cases where high speed operations are there, definitely keys and pins are used, right? And easily you can understand, if we want to dismantle it, we can easily take out the key, and the gear surface or the shaft surface will not be damaged in that. So that is why they are categorized as temporary fasteners. So in this class I shall talk about this threads and different terminologies associated with them. So you have already, all of you have seen nut and bolt, screws and stud. So the difference is mainly because of their use and manufacturing type. So on nut and bolt, you can see the thread is up to, for bolt the thread is up to certain part and some portion is left without thread. But for screws the whole body is threaded, and for stud there is no head part, only both the sides. In middle there is one shank or body part, and both the sides are threaded so that it can attach two plates, and on both the sides we have to fix with nuts. So on this side we have to attach one nut, and also on this side we have to attach one nut. So that way these studs work, right? So two major applications for threaded threads or threaded components are there. First one is holding components together, that we all know. The next one is to impart relative motion. So in your fitter shop, I do not know, probably Satyam was saying that you have attended you have seen the workshop. So there are many bench vices fixed for different operations. So these, in this bench vice, this behind jaw is fixed and the front jaw is movable. So the sectional view in assembled condition is shown here. This screw or this threaded part is fixed with this movable jaw, and as it rotates, it takes the movable jaw on this slide or guide towards the jaw on the fixed side, or which is on the behind. So if you go to the workshop, you will see, if you go to the fitter shop or even the carpentry shop, there are bench vice which use this technique. So imparting relative motion is another important aspect. So the example I was showing you, that screw jack, there also is imparting relative motion. One component moves away from the others. One fixed part is there and the other part moves because it is rotated. So with respect to one component, relative motion is given. Right now, going into basic terminologies. So internal and external thread, these are easily you can follow that. On a cylindrical body, if it is outside the body, the thread is outside the body, it is external, or a male thread, it is termed. Whereas for nuts or holes, if the thread is inside it, it is internal or female thread. That way it is termed, right? Now here one bolt, and over that a nut is assembled. This figure is shown. So some portion is threaded, so that part is threaded length, and the shank part, this one is the shank part, which is non-threaded. So that part is known as the grip length, right? And the total length is nominal length of the bolt. Now this one is the bolt head, as I told. And also at the portion where the thread just ends, that portion is known as run out. So a very small portion where the thread just ends its last helix, that part is known as the run out, right? Now this shank part, why we do not provide threads over here? Now you can understand that this shank part has much higher diameter compared to the threaded part. Threaded part, here some material is removed and also here some material is removed. So the minimum diameter is somewhat less than the diameter at shank. So if we remove the whole material, this part will also become weak under tension. So to avoid that, shank part is not given threads. Another advantage is, if we do not cut thread here only up to this, then machining operation will be limited for this length only. So if we need to perform the same machining operation over this length also, then it will increase the machining cost. So these two are the main reasons or advantages why these bolts are, some portion of the bolts are non-threaded, and that part is termed as shank. Another important thing is this radius. At this end where the head starts from the cylindrical part, there is a short radius. Now this radius is given to avoid stress concentration and notch sensitivity. Now this stress concentration and notch sensitivity you will learn in your machine design class in more details, how to read them, how to under which type of loading, how they varies and all. For starter, you can understand that if you have a plate or bar in this form, if we put load on this, so it will be supporting the load in its cross section, say rectangular cross section. Now say the same object is made with some notch. So if that is the case, then you can easily understand that this part has a lower dimension or lower cross sectional area. So when pulled with same load, because of this very sharp edge here, it will be easier for that object to start the crack along this line. So that means that a higher stress is formed at this notch because of its sharp shape. So this is called the stress concentration. Because of the sharp shape, there a concentrated stress occurs, and the because of this higher stress, chance of failure also increases. There are certain methods to avoid this stress concentration. One simple example is, instead of making it very sharp, we make it a bit rounded. So this option, in that case there is no sharp edge, so somehow the load will be distributed over this rounded part, and that way some stress will be reduced. To reduce this kind of stress concentration, here some radius is provided, and that radius is also sometimes called chamfering or chamfered portion, right? So these are the terms Now you have encountered both right hand rule, left hand rule. You have learned about all of these. Similar to that in threads also, left hand thread and right hand thread. Uh, are you aware of all these things? Any introduction has been given in thread to you till now?
No,
Yes, sir. In our workshop class, we have given some introduction about the.
Right. Okay. So this in threads also, this left hand thread and right hand threads are there. So it is somewhat similar to the coordinate system in left hand and right hand. In right hand coordinate, if we rotate the any two consecutive coordinates from one towards the other in clockwise direction, we will get the direction of the third coordinate. So similar idea is applicable for right hand thread. So if we have right hand thread in drawing, how will you understand? If it is external thread, you will see that if the threads are such that the thread profiles are, or thread lines, helical lines over the cylindrical part are inclined towards right, then here the red lines are shown in this manner. So it will be a right-handed thread for external threads, right? Similarly, for left-hand threads, it will be slightly slanted towards the left side if you come from top to bottom. But for internal thread here, you see the concept is reverse. That means for right hand thread, the inclination of the lines will be towards the left side from top to bottom. And for the left hand thread, left hand internal thread, the inclination will be towards the right side from top to bottom. Now, the for mating or for assembling, if right hand thread is there, if we see from this direction, we have to rotate this part in clockwise direction to so that it advances in this direction inside the nut. And similarly, if we are having a left hand thread and we are seeing from this direction, the observer is seeing from this direction, we have to impart one anti-clockwise rotation on this externally threaded component so that it moves inside the nut, right? So in most of our applications, right hand threads are there. Only in applications where the component itself rotates in clockwise direction, there we use left hand thread so that it does not come out very easily. So if you have noticed the left pedal of a bicycle, then you might have noticed, or if you have the opportunity to check it, you can check. If you rotate it anti-clockwise, it will get tightened, and if you rotate it clockwise, it will get loosened, because that is left hand thread on the left side of your bicycle pedal. So these are some of the examples where in some fans also some left hand threads are given, because if the rotation is in clockwise direction and the threading is in right hand, while rotating it may get loose and it may come out. So the reverse threading is given, left hand threading, so that if it rotates in that direction, it will be tightened instead, right? Now moving on to thread nomenclature. So if we represent one external and one internal thread like this, the maximum or highest portion of a thread is called the crest, and the minimum point on the thread is called the root. Now from the center or axis of the cylinder up to the root, whatever diameter is there, that is minor diameter, and up to the crest, whatever diameter is there, that is the major diameter of that threaded component. Now similarly for nut also, whatever is the maximum point on the material, that point is crest, and whatever there is no material, that point is root, right? So based on that, the major and minor diameter is again determined. So in other words, you can say for major diameter at the end you will get crest, for minor diameter at the end you will get root. right? Another pitch diameter is there. Pitch diameter is at the location where if you start from this point and reach at the next point, you will see that the length between them is equally divided inside the material and where there is no material. So this part is not having material, this length, and this part is having material, this length, they will be equal. So if this is the line from the axis, this line will be having some diameter, that diameter is pitch diameter. And the concept is, if instead of these threads, two cylindrical components, say one cylinder is there with pitch diameter and another hollow cylindrical part is there, that is also having a hole with the pitch circle diameter or pitch diameter, then if we slide this cylindrical part into this hole, it should act as uh, the thread operates. But in reality, it is not possible. Conceptually, that is the indication that the outside diameter of this component with pitch diameter and inside diameter of that nut with pitch diameter will be equal, right? So these terms, and also here V thread is shown. Additionally, along with V thread, there are other threads like square thread, and also rounded threads are also there. I'll show in some later slides what profiles are there. Here this V thread is there, so this thread angle is also important. And as I mentioned, this pitch length is, if you start from any point on the thread and you start rotating along the thread, if you reach at the same location after same consecutive location after rotation, then you will get one pitch length. So starting from this point, whenever you are getting to the next similar point, then you get the pitch length. So based on that, this lead and pitch are differentiated. Now if you have one cylindrical component, on that you can cut thread using one helical shape, right? Actually these threads are in helical form in this manner. So when you start from here and you move along this helical line, slowly you will go along this line. Now there is a possibility that only one helix is present over the cylindrical part. In that case, if you start from here, you will go along this thread, and from behind you will come above this position at one full rotation. So pitch and lead becomes equal, and in that case it is called as single start thread. Now there is a possibility that if you start from here, between the lengths between the two peaks of one helix, so this one is one helix, this blue color, and if we show using another color, the next one, this one is your another helix. So if we start from here with on the blue line and we reach for one rotation, will be over here, so that indicates lead. So for one complete rotation, starting from a point wherever we reach, that is the lead. But pitch remains the same. Two consecutive similar points, distance between two consecutive similar points over the thread is pitch. So all the green lines are pitch. So in these three cases that are shown here, all three cases the pitch is same, but the lead is different. So the distance or helix angle is increased slowly. For the third case, you see, if you start from here on this thread and from the behind, if you come, after one complete rotation, you will reach at this point. So this lead is up to this length, but again the pitch is smaller. since the next similar point has a distance of this much, this pitch is smaller. So here another indication is shown similar to the previous one, where what I explained here. So for the single start thread, if you start moving with one rotation, you will cover the pitch length. For double start, you will cover twice the pitch length, and that will be one lead. Again, for 4 start, you will cover 4 times the pitch length for one lead. That is the multiple threaded or multiple threaded uh, nuts or bolts. And the advantage is when number of threads are number of start or number of uh, threads are increased, with one rotation the traveling distance increases whereas the pitch remains same. So if we try to move with single start thread from here to here, we have to make the pitch starting from there to there. But instead, if we use four pitch, then or 4 starts, then we can move this much length, but the pitch will remain smaller, so that the tightness or grip of the thread is good and also the movement is faster. In bottle caps and all, we generally use these triple start or 4 start threads, so that within 1 or 2 rotations, if you check the cold drinks bottles, within 1 or 2 rotations it closes very easily, right? So this is the relation between pitch and lead. Just 1 second. So next is this thread profile or thread form that I was talking in last slide. So sharp V, that one we were till now showing all the terminologies and that related to this sharp V profile. But in general, we use metric profile. Why? Again, the concept of stress concentration comes into picture. Because of sharp V, these portions will be under tremendous stress. So to avoid that, they are flattened or rounded off. So that way we can create the stress concentration much lower, and that modified V thread is called metric thread. In general, in BIS also we follow this metric thread, and in almost all the simple threads you will find metric thread. Now, as I already mentioned, additional thread profile, square thread or knuckle thread or Acme or buttress thread. So these are also profiles, but here you can see, since the load carrying surfaces, these are the load carrying surfaces of the thread, since they are perpendicular with respect to axis of the bolt or nut threaded component, their load carrying capacity is much higher. So that is why in screw jacks and all, these kind of square threads are used. And this kind of knuckle threads are seen in, if you have seen a torch bulb in old torches, old aluminum torches, if you have fitted a bulb, if you check in recent days also, nowadays this probably B22 bulbs are all having this knuckle threads, this circular thread profile on it. So these are uh, comparatively less used, and in those cases where uh, it will be used by hands, or many a times the user will be coming in touch over the heads of this profile. So in those cases, this circular or knuckle profile is used. And this Acme and buttress profiles are also having very limited uses for some low weight screw jacks, and there these types of threads are sometimes used, right? But in most of the screw jacks, you will see only square threads. And our case, we shall be dealing with metric thread because all nuts, bolts, they are made with isometric thread. Now, when manufactured in a shop or in a production house or company, they use different techniques like lathe or turning or thread cutting tools are there. For mass production, they are used. But in earlier days and also for low number of production or limited number of production, threading die can be used. So these, I think, you are shown in your fitter shop demonstration. I think video probably you have seen that the outside threads are cut. So this part is a cylindrical component and that is fixed inside the vise, and on this die stock this die is placed. Here on these surfaces some teeth are made, which when rotated over the cylindrical part, the thread profile is created outside the cylindrical component to make some external threads. Similarly, for internal thread, first twist drill is used to make a hole that is through the object where the where the thread is required, and inside that then this tool that is tap, outside of which some teeth are there, which helps in cutting the thread profile or threads. And using this tap wrench we can again hold the drilled component inside the vise, and on that if we twist the tap wrench with tap, the thread will be internal thread will be cut, right? If you do not have seen this, when the physical mode classes start, you try to contact some of our teachers from production shop so that they can show you some demonstration of this, right? Now the isometric thread, as I mentioned, we are using isometric threads. So this internal and external threads can exactly meet or assembled when the nominal size or nominal diameter, that is measured diameter, and pitch both are equal. So for any nut to smoothly fit on a bolt, both of them must have equal nominal size or diameter and equal pitch. So isometric screw thread profile, all the details as I already told you, these things are well established and available in any handbook, so no one needs to remember all these values or dimensions. You can directly calculate them by referring to any standard figure or any standard figure showing all the relations, right? Now for metric thread there are two types. One is fine thread and coarse thread. Now for fine thread and coarse thread means there is a difference in their pitch. Now you can understand, if the pitch is smaller, each line on this threaded part will come closer to each other. So over the same length, more number of threads will be there. And for coarse thread, a less number of threads will be there as the pitch is comparatively higher. So distance between any two consecutive point is higher for coarse thread, but for similar fine thread, distance between any two consecutive point over the thread is comparatively lower than this coarse thread. But the nominal or major diameter of both the threads are same. So based on that, we differentiate them between fine thread and coarse thread. While writing, we can designate them by M12. Now M indicates for metric thread and 12 is the diameter of the major diameter of the bolt. And while we are showing fine thread, we additionally write the pitch value with a multiplication. Now there are standard charts where all the standard values of bolts are mentioned. Now you may notice that in general we follow, these are the standard diameter values of the bolts. Now this helps in interchangeability. So any shop that is producing bolts, if they confine into they confine their production into these values. The list is further long. I have shown only part of it. Again, if you refer to any handbook, you will get the complete list. Now, if the standard forms are followed or standard diameters are followed, then the feature of interchangeability comes into picture. Now, interchangeability means, say for example, I have two components joined using one M10 bolt, and somehow due to service, during service time, it has got damaged. So we can easily replace M10 bolts and procure them from market and easily replace them. Also, another advantage is if we fix the sizes, then the production unit will be fixed and the overall cost for processing will get reduced. So these are some reasons based on which this nominal diameter or measure diameter is selected. Measure diameters are fixed, and based on that the designations are decided. So these are some of the relationships for coarse diameter. Now coarse thread. Now coarse, difference between coarse and fine thread, as I mentioned to you, that say for example M12, if you check for coarse thread, the pitch is coming out to be, or the pitch is given as 1.75. So if you are using a 12 diameter single start thread, so if you start from one point on the cylindrical body of that bolt, and if you move one complete rotation, since it is a single start, you will move the length of pitch, that is 1.75 millimeter. Whereas for your fine series, if we see 12 has two designations, M12 into 1.5, M12 into 1.25. So two pitch values are possible. One is 1.5 millimeter, one is 1.25 millimeter. So since you can easily follow that, since the gap or pitch is getting reduced for fine thread, there will be a much many more number of threads available over the same length compared to the coarse thread when we are seeing a fine thread, right? So these are the differences. Now, while representing, so there are three types of representation. Till now, what we have seen, this detailed representation of thread. So in this detailed representation, all the detailings are shown. This, as I showed you all the terminologies, this thread runout is shown also, the pitch is shown in detail, and for internal thread also it is shown. Next, we move on to the schematic representation for comparatively easier representation, but here also it is a little bit complicated, and the thread runout cannot be shown on this. So this type of is schematic representation. In some books and some design books and some problem solving cases, you might come across these type of drawings. But what we use in engineering drawing or machine drawing, that is the simplified representation of thread. So the for the front view of this kind of thread profile, this threaded portion is, the outside portion is shown using thick lines, and inside that the root portion or the minimum minor diameter is shown using a thin line inside it. So the diameter, the outside two lines indicate the major diameter. Here at the end, if you have noticed, there is some sanking is done, or counter sanking is done, or chamfering is done, so that this, when this front edge is put into some hole, it is easier. So because of that, easier to insert. So because of that, some inclination is given, that is 45 degree, and this inclination is approximately 30 degree with horizontal, right? So this part indicates the thread runout. So this is the front view. And for a nut, internal thread, here it is not showing a nut, it is showing a cylindrical object with internal thread. So if we draw the full view, definitely for the major diameter we'll get one dotted line. For the minor diameter also we'll get another dotted line. But if we get the sectional views, here you will see that two lines are visible as we are taking section through the object. So this, using this sectional view and this type of simplified view, most of our thread representations will be performed, or our machine drawing, in our machine drawing we shall be drawing our thread. Another part is
ক্লাস ছিল
okay, within 5 minutes I'll complete. So another part is different for different types of components. These are the actual projection that I already showed you, the detailed projection. But conventionally, when using machine drawing, we generally use the this form of drawing. So here you notice that for external thread, the major diameter is using a full circle and the minor diameter is drawn using a 3/4 circle with some extensions, right? So this indicates it is having external threading and the minor diameter is inside. Similarly, if external threads are shown, internal threads are shown, in that case you will see that the major diameter is shown with a full circle, and outside that the minor diameter with a 3/4 circular part with some extensions are given. So these two representations are for side view. Here I have shown some of the relationships of some common types of bolts and their images. So I'll share this PPT with you. Some of the bolts and few nuts are shown here, and another locking arrangement is required. Sometimes when in vehicles or machines, due to vibration, what happens, the nut gets loose. So to avoid that, there are certain arrangements which can prevent the loosening of nuts. So one commonly used one is using a lock nut or chest nut. This marked with one, a smaller nut above the original nut is placed, so that tightening that nut will act as a locking arrangement and the inside original nut will not get loose. Other possibilities are making hole through the threaded component, externally threaded component, and putting some pins there so that it does not come out, and some more using grub screw and a spring washer. Those are also shown here. So all the dimensions you can get. I'll give you some assignments to draw these views, and also some assembled view I shall give you. So you just need to, for a major diameter, you just need to follow the values and calculate them for that particular case, what are the values, and according to that you have to draw that. The overall schematics will be given to you, and the dimensioning and all these informations has to be done very clearly. Also the sheet preparation is important. You know about that. You have to make grids and title block in that. I shall share one title block format. So using that you can complete it, right? So since time is less, I'll stop here, and after getting the assignments, if you have doubts, you can post it in the class and I'll try to clarify as early as possible, right? So if you want to ask any question, or I'll stop it here, because short time you have again another class. So is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You can end up the class.
Okay, so it's okay.
Sir,
So yes,
I have a question from the isometric part, sir.
yes, ask me.
Sir, why a circle is ellipse in isometric, sir?
Because that perspective view I in at the beginning of
I
that,
can't imagine, sir, the thing.
you can't imagine that thing. So
Yes, sir.
you keep do you have a jar or a bottle or a mug
Yes, sir.
in
Yes.
front of you? So you keep it at some distance and you see the top. So what do you see, a circle or an ellipse?
A mug.
If you say you have a jar, right?
Yes, sir.
On that jar the cap is tightened. Now you keep the jar in front of you and you do not touch it, you just see the top of that jar.
Oh,
So
ellipse, sir. But
so
if
that
I
is,
see exactly from the top, then I see a circle.
yes, but in
Oh, okay.
isometric drawing we are seeing we are mixing all three parts. We are using some properties of orthographic drawing, we are using some properties of perspective drawing, and we are using some properties of 3D view. So
Yes.
using all of them, these isometric drawings are created. That is why we try to make it as realistic as possible with easier to with as easy to draw as possible, right?
Okay.